keep moving on. So, exercise 2, we were talking about starting to use this left hand, engaging this muscle here. Practicing, of course, this core over here. Right? Getting rhythm in there. Got a straight tempo going here. But start getting some rhythm in that. Play straight. Picking up heartbeat. Right? And then starting to use this arm. They're all independent instruments. You have sync patterns here. Play them differently. For example, something going off here, hi-hat or cymbal for maybe the guitar lead, while the bass, while the foot follows what the bass is filling out as a rhythm section. So we got highlights on the guitar here, but the rhythm section stays with the bass. So that's kind of like playing individual instruments instead of having that pattern going on, a repetitive pattern where everything's more closer knit music assemblages. And that's the multiple integration that I want to expand on or elaborate on, the concept of playing your instrument among two others, a guitar and a bass. And what you're playing on the drums and what they're playing on the guitar, bass or keys or whatever it is that may be playing from those artists, from those mixing in with what it is you're playing. So it's very important to understand when we're talking about how loud those drums are, because they really are loud, and thinking about playing them live. You know, you have an opportunity to really get a lot of sound dynamics out of them. Because guitars are loud, there's a lot of noise flying around in the room. So, you know, it's sort of, you know, all the noise is bouncing off other noise. And you can control the loudness of it and get depths out of it, more kind of granular kinds of sounds. For example, walking on the beach at night where there's just the sounds are really surreal, low, quiet, sandy, just little riffs, maybe a cymbal, something like that, really, you know, granular, or all the way up to something really heavy, where you know, it's perhaps using the season sort of analogy, like a violent thunderstorm or something, or something really cool like the sun rising in the morning, whatever it might be. That's, you know, not so granular but more heavy and broken down into chunks of individual instruments. So, you know, going back to the separating out the ride to highlight the guitar sounds, because you're talking about a power trio. This is exercise 3, right? So, thinking about the guitar, what it's doing, and highlighting that, and maintaining the bass drum with the rhythm section, bass guitar. So there's really often two very radically different things going on over here between this ride and what's going on here with the foot. That's why it's important to start from the ground up, so that you're capable of developing each instrument independently, so that this effortlessly can follow the guitar, listening to the guitar sounds, and highlight everything that's going on with the guitar as if it was the only instrument playing. And this right foot here is actually doing the same thing but with the bass guitar. and when there's really wide variation between the rhythm section and what the lead guitar is playing, in terms of sound structure. Like the guitar, the 6th string isn't playing a chord, for example. It's playing single riff leads real fast, running up and down the board, up and down the scales and jumping octaves, stuff like that, where the rhythm section is pretty much just hanging a pattern. More like, and it's changing, of course, but it's not as changing as radically as the lead guitar is. It's just maintaining the foundation. But, you know, really uniquely, and it has its own variations that are balanced with the lead guitar, but it's rhythm foundations. And so, foot stays with the rhythm, right hand stays with the guitar, right? And then you can keep solid tempo over here, right there. Now from that solid tempo right there, your main snare tool is right there. But remember, Bonham played the snare a lot with his right hand as well. He'll switch up and play the snare as though it's either the hi-hat or ride cymbal, but he's playing the snare. Then he'll take and play over here the toms. So keep that in mind when you know, you're thinking about what instruments you can play and how you should play them. If you're thinking about how John Bonham played. So, you know, freeze this up over here to learn what it needs to learn, to play upbeats, downbeats, continued rolls, whatever it might be, because you can get a lot out of that drum. It's 14 inches. Once you get the bounce out of it, it will just start flying. All that will double up. And so, you know, once you get really good control of that, you'll be able to play perhaps more comprehensively than you ever considered with it. But you got to use it, focus in on the techniques, and just keep with it. So, exercise 3, what's the task? Well, thinking about, I'm going to integrate the background of Indian music, and also the background of South African music, and I'm also going to integrate deep South American blues, and look at how they're structured, and think about how Led Zeppelin interpreted some of the songs that are focusing on the culture of deep South music in America. Look at the patterns they come up with and think about what it may have influenced them. And then, you know, in order to arrive at that, you might consider the biography of John Henry Bonham, and think about, you know, his world of media at that time, what the channels were, who he was listening to, etc. So, what was he exposed to? Well, he had probably 4 channels on TV, if any. 4 channels on TV, probably, if any. Right? And what else? Well, is there an Indian presence in the UK? Is there an Indian presence in the UK? Okay. How about South African? So what kind of media are they feeding through those 4 channels? Pretty neat stuff, I'd imagine. On documentaries and whatnot. But anyway, this is the kind of music that Bonham was most likely exposed to. Of course, all the jazz, blues, all that stuff, but what was his cultural foundations? And thinking about it that way, definitely had an Indian influence and South African. he was interested in these kinds of percussion genres. Because much of what he plays is kind of in line with some of it. I mean, you can kind of like identify it with that. So anyway, I'm thinking about that. What's the Indian influence? Well, the Indian influence is found in American music and just things in general. But basically, what it is patterns. Ragas and patterns and drones of music. And a drone is just a sound. It's in the background. It just holds that tone for the whole song. Doesn't vary it at all. That's a drone in Indian music. It's kind of like a bass guitar. It's just like one note, man. You only got one note, dude. You're playing bass, right? And then you got the sitar or some other instruments, tambras, Indian percussion, and finger drums, all sorts of really neat percussion items to think about playing in different ways. I seen this Indian dude at the university. He was going to perform in a percussion a big performance there, and so they had a lot of different percussionists from all over the place there. And I was sitting watching this dude earlier in the lobby downstairs before the performance, way early in the day. He was sitting, there's a bunch of students around and whatnot, you know, eating, studying, whatever. And he was sitting there playing a hand drum. And he was just rocking out on his fingers, flying. And I was watching him play it. And he was really into it. So lots of patterns, and but that drone, that blah, 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 blah thing going on. And then you got South African music, which is the call response thing. Call response. It's kind of like people talking with drums. It's like you're on one hill and I'm on the other. And I say, boom, 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 boom. You know, whatever it might be. Now that's just a little silly example, but it's an emotional experience with the drums where you're conveying a certain tempo, which might be excitement, or it could be really low and blue. So the drums, the way you play percussion, it's very important to get a lot of tonic sound out of it. That's why you'd see Bonham pressing on the heads of the drums and taking them up high, then letting them down, and then then just playing them out, playing the skin out, and it's kind of like you're making a pizza, sort of. When you're playing the skin out like that, if you take a piece of dough and put it on the counter, you start pressing it out towards the sides, like that. You try to make it round on the plate. Well, it's kind of like that concept. And, and then you can come back with it as well. So, but that's kind of the concept of playing on the skin like that, and pressing down and bending the notes. That's them big drums, with those clear heads on them. You can get a lot of dynamics out of them like that. And I think John really enjoyed playing that later on. Earlier on, the skins on the toms were the white heads. They weren't clear, and they had more kind of like a jazzier or sandier sound to them. And they were bright too, if you popped them right. So, so thinking about the Indian influence and the South African influence, we call response in drums, which is balance. When we think about the percussion instruments, what's going on down here in the basement. And it's back and forth. So here is the rudiments of exercise 3. Is understanding that you can lead with any instrument at any time. A lot of drummers fumble with the ball here. It's really important that there's constant breaking points between all your instruments. You don't have to play it all the way up to 4 before you can hit a cymbal and then do something else. That's what I'm trying to say. In short, so that means what you want to focus on is if you crack the snare and want to follow it with the bass, boom, just like that, right? Boom. But what are, instead of falling into a pattern that you're used to, like boom, wonder if you want to turn it around. See what I mean? So you can go from one to the other, up or down, at any time you want to. Switch it. So that's the focus, is up, 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 do you see that? Did you see how I went down? And then I went back up. Do you see how I was accenting the intonation on it? So you want to practice that right and left. Remember, balance from the ground up. If you're doing it over here, okay, up, boom, boom. You also want to be able to do it over here. Up, boom, 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 boom. All right? Up, boom, 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 boom. You can do it. Just like that, and then back up. Right? And then you get into patterns of them. Maybe 3 down, 3 up. 4 down, 4 up. 3 down, 3 up. 2 down, 2 up. 2 down, 2 up. 1 down, 1 up. 1 down, 1 up. 1 down, 1 up. 1 down, 1 up. Watch. 1 down, down, 1 down, down. Now, you start to do that, and it's kind of like real light at first, because you're thinking about it cognitively. Am I doing this right? Once you know that you're doing it right, start thinking about the muscles, like it's a bicycle, and busting into it. Start building that motor memory. So it's switching down or switching up. So I come down, but I turn around, went right back up. Right? Starting with leading with the instrument you left off on. Right? Just like that. Once you know that you're doing it right, then you practice the muscles. Now, you don't want to, you want to think about strength. How strong am I? You know what I mean? And lifting weights and stuff like that, and eating protein or whatever your diet is. You know, you got to think about the brawny guys who aren't really limber. You know, you got a lot of mass on you. You got to think about how limber are you really. Because once you get them, you know, you get flying there, and there's a lot of stamina involved in contrast to brute strength. So you want to balance what's needed strength-wise with the stamina that you're getting out of it. So what I'm saying is, you know, if you're working out or whatnot, think about that when you're learning these motor skills as well, because they're different motor skills. And unfortunately, one may interfere with the other. So, because you only got so many options there. Don't get me wrong, there's great big huge guys that are like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger that rock out with drums. But you may, though, find, if you're not playing the drums well yet, if you're learning, that you know, you really want to be limber. You don't want to act like you're lifting 15, 100, 500 pounds without being limber. You don't want to be stressed on it. So it's kind of like more like rowing a boat or something. A real, if you were sitting behind it, if you were one of the two dudes sitting in a boat, you have a big oar coming through the side of the boat. There's 10 guys, 2 lines in front of you and 10 lines behind you, and you guys are rowing this huge oar, pulling it and pushing it, pulling it and pushing it, digging into the water and pushing it. That kind of strength, you know, and just that kind of rock and roll forward. Well, you know, thinking about strength, like cheap, in contrast to strength, like really physically lifting up 500 pounds. When you play the instruments, you're going to want to think about the hard dynamics you can get out of them without really breaking them, but getting the most sound out of that instrument. You sort of temper the cymbals over time, and you learn how hard can I hit this cymbal, watching it vibrate without breaking it. What's its point? Where does it really just clip at, and taking it up to that point but not going over it, because then you're just breaking it. So you know, you can really put a lot of force behind a stick if you come at it right. And you know, the stick is an extension of your hand, which is an extension of your arm, and you can just fly right into it, boom, 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 almost like a seasoned boxer, just planting, boom, boom, one hour after the other. You know what I mean? Boom, 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 right in there. And so thinking about that balance and getting that extension going on, patterns, one up, one down. That right there is a lot to chew on, consider. So lead, be able to switch bow, right? You want to be able to switch. You want to come up or go down, whenever you want to. It's the downbeat or it's the upbeat, whenever you want it. Not when you think it should be. I mean, not when the band, if there's different configurations of bands and sound. When you have big bands are kind of like riding in a big boat. Everybody's going to the same place in this boat. And so the rhythms are pretty much cut out for the percussion end, where you follow a pattern down and just smash when the other guy plays the horn in a certain way. Well, when you have a power trio, you have more control, and you're the dynamic of those changes primarily. So you need to be able to bring the music up, bring the upbeat, or bring the downbeat whenever it's needed, and fill all that space, because you're the only one doing it, really. I mean, with the percussion, just battering it out. The bass guitar, of course, is playing along with you, but going up and down, it's a pretty fluid dynamic. So be able to work, right? However you want to go back, fourth and start and go, all the way around the kit, all the way around it. All right? That's exercise 3. Peace.